Welcome to the Project Endure podcast, the place where we talk about life, endurance, persistence, perspective, and so much more. I'm Joe Rinaldi, and I'll be your host. Let's jump in. Before we get started, let me share a quote with you. The great Les Brown once said, "You can't see the picture when you're in the frame." If you felt stuck in your fitness, mindset, or life as a whole, head down to the link in the show notes and reach out to learn more about Project Endure Coaching so that we can help you step outside of the frame and bridge the gap between who you are now and who you want to be. We can't wait to hear from you. Now, let's get to the episode. Welcome back to the Project Endure podcast, episode 108. We have myself, Joe Rinaldi, and we have a very, very, very special guest in the southern part of the great state of New Jersey, Jack Driscoll. Jack, what's going on, man?
What's going on, brother? Happy to be here. I'm excited for the conversation.
I am very excited for this conversation. And I think, as this podcast unfolds, people have more context as to why I was so shocked that you were so ready to just jump right into this podcast. I mean, you just came off of a shift at work after an absolutely crazy month. But before we get into any of that, I would love for you to introduce yourself to people listening who might not know who you are.
Yeah, man. All right. So what's up, guys? Jack Driscoll. I am 26 years old. I am a full-time career firefighter. I own a small personal training gym. And my whole philosophy on fitness is all fitness is good fitness. And I'm trying to do my best to be as well-rounded as possible in every area.
I love that. So all fitness is good fitness. When did you come up with that?
Probably like last year. So I started this TikTok series where as Jack does, I was just trying to do literally any workout that was suggested to me, I would try, whether it was like kickboxing, powerlifting, bodybuilding, running, and they all make you feel good afterwards, So whatever you can like do consistently that makes you feel good, do it. They're all worth the same in my book.
I like that. Now, to go all the way back to what got you into fitness in the first place, and then also what got you into firefighting, where do both of those journeys begin for you?
So fitness wise, 16 years old, like most guys, most people, we want to get better at sports and we want to impress some girls. That's usually where we all start. But I had a torn ACL my junior year of football. And after that, it was me alone in the weight room. All my friends are playing sports and I'm just like trying to recover. And all I could do was work out. Ended up becoming dependent on it almost. It was just like my release. And I haven't looked back over the last 10 years. But firefighting wise, I'm finishing up my 4th year. So I was looking for a job that kind of balanced, being able to do stuff with your hands that was rewarding, in the community. There's nothing like it, like helping somebody out and being able to do things like that day in, day out. And it gave me the flexibility to do fitness because we work 24-hour shifts and then we're off for 3 days. So I started my personal training business and had plenty of time to do a lot of workouts.
That's not a bad schedule at all. Now, out of those 24 hours, I'm assuming that you get a chance to sleep every now and then if things are slow.
Yes, we can, but it is all dependent on how it is. So I just got off at 36, so I was working overtime. So I went in, the other night, and that first night didn't sleep at all. But last night I got to sleep pretty much. So
Got it.
no
Now, what is one life lesson that you've learned from fitness? And do you have a life lesson that you've learned through firefighting as well?
Yeah. So fitness, it doesn't matter if anybody else sees the end goal. That's the main thing. Nobody else has to see the vision except for you.
Mm.
Because most people aren't going to believe that you're going to do whatever you say you're going to do anyway. You just have to speak it into existence. So we'll talk more about that big thing that I did this past month, but everybody was telling me that was ridiculous, and it was, but I believed in it. And eventually, you do enough groundwork and you put enough hours in, people start to see the vision as well, and they'll start to believe in you, and then it's just momentum at that point. As far as firefighting, you get out what you put in. I mean, the rewards, whether it's just like encounters with people, the feelings you get from helping people, um, everything, hard work is never not rewarded. It doesn't
Mm.
always come instantaneously, but eventually it will find its way to you.
I love that. I've been on this kick of saying hard work works, and it's so true.
Well,
And I think to your point, one, there's often a lag time between when you put in the work and when you see the reward, and that can be discouraging or frustrating for a lot of people. And I think there are people out there who have given up before they've seen the results just because it's taken a while. And I would also argue that a lot of times the result or the reward might not look like we think it will look like. And so I love to think that the work itself is a reward. And even if you never got to the outcome, even if you didn't finish the race, even if you didn't get that thing that you were striving for, you still became better in the process. And I think that's one of the most beautiful parts about the work, especially the work that nobody else sees.
that is, I could not agree more. I mean, you put in enough hours and work along trying to get to this goal, and you realize that was the beauty of it all, was the growth. Um, I know, like, it wasn't too long ago that you were at 10,000 followers on Instagram, and you've been doing the same thing, being consistent, and now we're almost at like in the mid 30s, right? It's just stuff like that. It's like you keep putting in the work and work, and then sometimes all of a sudden it blows up, and sometimes it doesn't. But I've never regretted working hard.
Yeah. Now, on the social media topic, similar things happened to you in recent weeks and months, at least from my perspective.
Yeah.
I'm curious how social media fits into everything that you do and how you view that. Is that something that you hope to grow and make a bigger part of what you do? Is that simply just a place where you share what you're doing in life? What does social media look like in your life?
Yeah, I definitely trying to make it a bigger part of my life for more opportunities, because um doing fitness, and being rewarded for it is just icing on the cake. But my philosophy on fitness, I mean, on social media, is the same. Post what you think is cool. It's not going to work unless you buy into it yourself. Like, so my, like, there's no clear cut consistency to what I post. It's like, oh, I did this today. I squatted and then ran a bunch of miles. I think that's cool. Maybe other people think it's cool. Here's me doing a bodybuilding workout. I think that's cool. Doing a CrossFit workout, whatever it is. And then I'll post like some dorky stuff, like how I'm a big Spider-Man fan or whatever. But whatever I think is cool, I'm just gonna post, and if people vibe with it, they do.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, social media needs to be a place where we can express our authentic selves first, and then,
Yeah.
a following, impact, etc., can come after. But I think we have to truly understand why we're doing it and who we want to be, not on the platform, but behind the platform. And then how do you share that on the platform?
How will people buy into you if you don't buy into yourself first?
It's a beautiful message. And I guess to flip that on you, was there ever a time in your life where you didn't buy into yourself, or have you always been bought into Jack?
So like I was telling you, I've been working out since I was 16, and then I went to college, and I was like still, training hard, and I was studying exercise science, but I got twisted up and partying too much and getting into that lifestyle, and I was lost for a little bit. Not like overly like, dramatic, but like your grades start doing as well. You're kind of like, what am I doing here? So after 3 semesters of college, I decided, you know what, this isn't for me. I got to do something different, and start, training on the side, working crappy jobs, kind of like just putting more into like fitness, just training in general. And then I got the firehouse job, and then I opened up my own personal training studio. And I really at that point found myself, and it's been, trying to improve upon that ever since.
I love that. So we'll transition into the first big question and we'll take the conversation from there. But as you look back on your 26 years of life so far, what is the hardest thing that you've ever had to handle that you didn't get to choose for yourself?
So I've grown up with 6 siblings, a big family, and it's a blessing. Don't get me wrong, it's awesome. I love my family so much, but my older brother, he is severely on the autism spectrum. He's nonverbal, basically can't take care of himself, and from a young age. And this is my older brother we're talking about, so he's a couple years older than me. You learn to, grow up and try and put others before yourself. And it's been tough with my parents, tough with my siblings, because he's going to live at home forever. And eventually my parents aren't around, one of us is going to have to be that person. um and when you're out in public and stuff like that, and he's like making all this noise and people don't understand, you learn to not care what people think as much, and you learn to just put the blinders on and just enjoy the moments with yourself, your family. And people aren't always going to understand you, or the people you're with, or what you're doing. And that's really transformed me as a person. Like, people don't understand what I'm doing, posting all this stuff on social media, working out however many hours a day, not going out with friends when everybody in their 20s is hitting up the bars and stuff like that. Just, you learn, like, it doesn't matter, what people think, because at the end you have to buy into yourself, and if you buy into yourself, people will buy into you. um, that's the main thing. You know, it's had its difficulties with our family and stuff like that, but I wouldn't change it for the world. I have the best parents, best siblings, and my older brother Joey, who's the autistic one. He's the light in our lives, and I mean that truthfully. Like, when he's upset, all of us are upset. When he's smiling, all of us are smiling. Um, that's really has transformed me as a person to be more caring and try to be more selfless, which is kind of counterintuitive to fitness in a sense, because it's so selfish sometimes.
Mm,
But you have to learn how to separate those things and try and put things in perspective.
mm. So you're 26. How old is Joey?
He just turned 28.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
we're
so,
close.
yeah, so when you were growing up, was there a season of life or a certain age range where things started to shift for you, where you started to feel, okay, it doesn't matter what people think, or it doesn't matter if people understand, or I need to be more caring or empathetic because I don't know what somebody else is going through at home? Was there a season of life where that started to click, or was it just a slow trickle over time?
I would say it was more of a slow trickle over time, because you grow up and you're kind of like so used to it, and you're wondering why other people don't get it. It's like it's your norm. And then probably like, you know 10, 12 years old on like a Disney trip, and like Joey's having a fit in like a store, and all these people are staring at him. You're like, what's wrong with these people? And then you realize that, like, it is a little abnormal, and it's not nothing against other people. I mean, it's, you see something that you don't see every day, you're going to react. And it's, but you have to just learn to put those things in perspective and be like, well, people are going to judge you or think certain things about you no matter what you do. You could be a grown man like Joey is, and yeah, yelling and screaming, or you could be like me, just working out all the time. People are going to judge you the same way. They're going to be like, that guy's a weirdo. And that's all right, as long as you're cool with who you are. And
Mm,
it it literally, it makes you um more aware of that other people could be going through different things, or maybe somebody looks like they have it all put together and they're questioning literally every decision they're making, just lost. And just try and be that person that people can feel comfortable about, no matter what it is they're doing.
Yeah. And you do that, man. And it all, I mean, it makes sense. Like who you are makes more sense in light of this conversation right now. And just to go back one more time to childhood, was there ever a time where you felt like you were a victim or you were robbed of the normalcy of what you thought life should be because of Joey?
Never felt like a victim. My parents always did a great job at like making us all feel like special, like almost like we were single children, or whatever. But it's just like it made me mature and my siblings mature at a much younger age, where like you gotta step up and take care of people who can't take care of themselves. And
Mm.
that kind of probably led me to where I am now, where I'm either helping people with training or I'm helping people at the, with the firehouse and stuff like that. Because you've transformed lives. You do it day in, day out. There's no better feeling than just having it, even if it's a small impact on someone, no better feeling.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just framing your story in a more general light for anybody out there, I think it's so cool to see how a seemingly negative and hard circumstance can lead somebody down a path that that has so much good in it. And you wouldn't be the person you are without all of that. And so before we move on,
Absolutely.
I wanted to share this. I won't read the whole poem, but I wanted to explain it. um Rewind to grad school. I did a rotation at a children's hospital, and this children's hospital dealt with a lot of children with special needs. And so this poem was introduced to me. It's called Welcome to Holland. And the poem is essentially for parents, and could be for siblings, of children who are born with special needs or children who are a little bit different. And the poem talks about how, I thought I was going to Italy. You get on this plane and all of my friends are going to Italy and it's beautiful and there's food and this and that. And you get off the plane and you're in Holland and it's, quiet and the skies are gray and you're by yourself and it's different, and it can feel like you're missing out on Italy. It can feel like you're missing out on the normal life that you thought you would have that everybody else has, but you're in Holland. And you can learn over time to enjoy that place and to enjoy the pace and to enjoy the scenery. And when things don't happen the way you thought they would, it's not a bad thing. Being in Holland isn't a bad thing. It's just different. And you can learn to love it. And if anybody out there is going through anything where they feel like they're different and they feel like life isn't unfolding the way they thought it would, whether it's because of somebody in their life or just a circumstance, I think we can all learn to appreciate those things and come to love those things over time, even if it's hard at first. So I just want to throw that out there.
That was amazing, man. He had no idea what I was going to say on this podcast beforehand. Just to let you guys know that he just pulled that. That was awesome. Like I couldn't agree more, man. Like you are like anywhere you are, you can make the most of it and just transform it into a positive space, a positive outlook on life. And there's endless opportunities everywhere we go.
Mhm. I couldn't agree more. Now, you already mentioned how you're self-proclaimed, maybe a little bit crazy when it comes to
Yeah.
envisioning big things and tackling big things. And you and I are both aware of what you just did, and the audience
Mm.
may or may not be. But when you look at your life, what is the hardest thing that you've ever done on purpose, and why have you done that thing? Or I should say, why have you done those things?
Yeah. Fair. So I let's cut to the chase, I guess, and then we'll backtrack. So this past month of June, I went on a cross country road trip. All right, that sounds like fun. But each weekend of the month, I decided to do a separate fitness competition in a different area of the United States. So the first weekend, I did a powerlifting meet. The second weekend, I did Battle Bunker Regionals, which is like a functional fitness hybrid athlete style competition with running, lifting, all that kind of stuff. The third weekend was a bodybuilding show, and the fourth weekend was a full Ironman to cap it all off. um, so how did I end up here? uh, about a year ago, last summer, I was trying to figure out how I could take this hybrid athlete style thing that I was inspired by Nick Bare, like Fergus Crawley, people like that, and try and put my own twist on it and inspire other people to like really push themselves as far as they can go. So before last August, I was never really a runner, never really ran. I started my running journey around then, and I was like, I want to show people that you can do all these different types of fitness at the same time, be as well rounded as possible, and do everything simultaneously. So this past year, I dedicated all my training to try and find this nice balance between strength, endurance, aesthetics, and did my first marathon in February, the Austin Marathon. Did a powerlifting meet the week after that. I forgot about that. So I did my first marathon and then a powerlifting meet the week after. That was like a little practice run. Um, but yeah, the last year of training was all building up to do this trip and compete in all these different areas of fitness that have almost no carryover to one another and see if I could balance them all. And it was a life-changing experience. It really pushed me mentally, physically, emotionally, trying to balance all of those things, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
Okay, so there's a lot to break
Yeah,
down here.
I wanted to give it a little break so that you can ask questions off that.
Yeah, that's perfect. So, okay. So, four different competitions. Where did these each take place within the United States?
So the powerlifting meet was right outside Boston in Massachusetts. Bow Bunker Regionals was in North Carolina. The bodybuilding show was in Phoenix, Arizona, and then the Ironman was Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, which was really beautiful, honestly.
Now, did you drive to all those places or did you fly? You're telling me you drove to all those places?
I rented out a very sketchy van. Um, yeah, so like wasn't allowed within 500 feet of schools. um, this big white van had a nice bed in it. It was nicer on the inside than it was the outside, but I had all my like gym stuff, a bunch of clothes, my bike, some shoes, and I went off. Left home in Jersey and hit the road. Covered about 10,000 miles over the course of a month. Saw so many amazing things, met up with so many amazing people. Like people were like hitting me up, being like, "Yo, you can stay with me if you want." It was awesome.
So, all right, out of all of that, and we'll talk about each one individually, but just a high level, which was the hardest and why?
So the hardest physically that day was by far, in a way, the Ironman. I mean, that I would say if you were doing an Ironman by itself, it's a life changing experience because you really go into that pain cave, whether you're doing it in 8 hours or you're doing it in 17 hours. It's a long time to be doing fitness. Um, trying as far as balancing the other ones, the bodybuilding is tough. You need calories with all of these things you're doing, and then bodybuilding you're taking that away. So it was really a mental test of trying to do my training runs and my training rides and put up some decent weight on the squat, bench, deadlifts while you're taking away the food. So mentally you're just getting pushed left and right. Luckily, more my base of training, like I said, I only started running last August. My base training has always been more bodybuilding and powerlifting style, until I got hired at the firehouse. And then I decided to be a little bit more functional, add some more high intensity stuff to be more well rounded and well versed. But yeah, the bodybuilding on top of it wasn't fun. I would probably cut that out next time.
Yeah, just because like when people and I was under this misconception when I was younger because I fell in love with fitness as, middle schooler. And ever since then I've been learning since, right? There's always something to learn, but in the beginning you'd look at these guys who were bodybuilders and they would look amazing. And you just kind of automatically pair that in your mind with they look good, that's health. That's like
Feel good.
peak health,
Yeah.
right? Like feel good, look good, perform good. And it almost couldn't be further from the truth, right? Like to be at 4 or 5% body fat is not healthy. That is not an optimal place to perform from. And you did that. So you did the powerlifting meet, you did battle bunker while you were doing that and getting your body to a
Yeah.
place that was not optimal for performance. What did it look like the week after the bodybuilding competition to the Ironman? Were you just like downing food left and right?
I definitely was, but you also had to keep in mind your body is used to certain qualities of food and stuff like that. So you couldn't just be crushing, pizza and whatnot every night and hoping to perform great for the Ironman. So it was more of the same foods, but it was really, it was almost double for sure, double the caloric intake. Um, you're like, it was the whole, I knew the whole plan. Obviously, this is my year-long thing I was trying to figure out. So over the course of the year, I'm thinking like, how am I best going to be able to wing this and try and because you're not gonna bring 100% to each event if you're doing four different events. You're hoping that you can get like 90, 95 maybe, and all of your base training has gotten you to a point where you can put up a decent performance. That was my thought process. So I was balancing these all throughout the year, staying at more of like a probably like a 10% body fat. And then I was like, if I can get really comfortable at, with all these different disciplines at this body fat percentage, and then go with a more aggressive hard cut like 6 weeks before, I would probably be able to hold on to most of what I was doing. And it worked out all right. We did okay. But it it wasn't a perfect science. I was my own test dummy, my own project, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend it to most people. But what I've gained as a person
Mm.
mentally, like what I endured throughout that process, it will be forever changing and will only make me stronger and more disciplined in any other route of fitness I decide to go in and in life, in my opinion.
Yeah. And we're gonna make the people wait a couple minutes to hear those life-changing thoughts and lessons, etc. I want to go through each event just quickly.
Yeah,
Not that the numbers or performance are really the point of any of this,
right.
but just to give people a complete picture. So starting with the powerlifting meet, what body
Yeah.
weight were you competing at, and what were the numbers, and how did it go?
So I weighed in at 176 when my weight class was up to 181 because we were in the bodybuilding prep.
Yeah.
So caught in the middle between two weight classes. So that's not a bad thing, but definitely not a good thing. You obviously want to cap out your weight class. I did okay. I missed a few lifts. So I finished with a 480-pound squat. I missed, didn't get it's which is tough because I've done 500 so casually in training throughout the year, but it's all about what you bring on the meet day. So 480-pound squat, low 300s on bench press, and then my deadlift was like mid 500s. No, yeah, something like that.
Not
And
bad.
ended up, yeah, not terrible. I ended up placing second. Um, for my last deadlift attempt, I went a little higher than I probably had in the tank to try and pull out the win, but it wasn't there. I failed. But that's the beauty of it, man. There's no better feeling than failing, in my opinion. Because it just drives everything forward. And I made the rest of the trip, like gotta press on.
Real quick before we keep going, I
Mm.
know there are people out there who hear that and think that is such a foreign concept. They might understand it just, at a logical level, but to actually practice that and to get excited about failing at something at the beginning of a month-long journey
Yeah.
is I'm guessing something not most people would feel, right? Not excited. What why?
Yeah.
Like, explain a little bit more about that.
So this goes back to what we were saying about the journey and the progress. That is the best part of it all, man. It's just the daily in and outs of the training,
Mm.
the hardships of it. That's what we fall in love with the process. And people who fall in love with that part of the process are the ones that go the furthest and have the most successes. So every time you fail, it's another chance to be like, all right, let's get back to the drawing board. And like my first marathon in February, I was like, I'm going sub 3. I'm going to get that Boston qualifier on my first try. And I came up 34 seconds short. I finished 3 hours and 34 seconds. I finished before the 3 hour pacer. Like, he was waving his flag behind me. I was so confident I got it. And I was down on the ground for a good hour and a half, like just full body pain. And then I found out that I missed it. And
Uh,
I was heartbroken for about, a minute. And then I was like, this is just fuel to the fire, and it it really is. That's the best. Like, you you never fall more in love with the process than you do when you fail, because it just gets you right back to it, and you're like, how can I be better? What can I do to improve? Like, how can I not let this happen next time? And then it always happens the next time, but that's all right, because then you just go back and back and back, and you end up making way more progress than you ever could have thought possible when you fail. And don't be afraid to fail. I always set my goals way higher than I can ever achieve, and
mm.
I will never reach my end goals, but I will get way closer than I ever thought possible with that mindset.
Yeah, I would call that a growth mindset. That mindset that failure is a stepping stone, that you are going to stretch your limits and you might not get there, but in the process of stretching and reaching for that, you are improving much more than if you played it safe and didn't take the risk. And, I think a lot of people in that situation, they cross the marathon finish line 3 hours and 34 seconds when they thought they had 3 hours or sub 3, right? The question, why me? Why does this have to happen to me? Can come up with failure.
Mm.
And I think reframing it, and I'm sure this is probably the way you think about it, even if it's not conscious, is why not me? Right? Like, this is great. This is an opportunity to try again, to stretch my limits and to get better. So I appreciate you explaining that. That's a great mindset.
Oh, absolutely. And so, anybody who's listening, I was not like that for a long time. I would be absolutely crushed anytime I did not get whatever I was planning on. And like we keep going, the growth process and the training is the best part about it, man. Once you fall in love with that process, or even just make it more, enjoy those moments, like those stupid Tuesday morning workouts that you think have no meaning on anything. Those are the best. That's the best part. It really is. Just
Mm.
enjoying those moments, those easy 5, 6 mile runs, those hard track workouts, whatever it is.
Yeah. And I think a question for anybody listening to consider would be, can you be invested in the process without being attached to the outcome? And I think that's a
Mhm.
dangerous recipe in the best sense of the word. And
Yeah.
so, with that being said, powerlifting meet, we've got it. That's behind us. Now, moving on to
Yeah.
Battle Bunker. How did that go? What are the metrics even? Because I think that's a newer
Yeah.
competition, right?
Yeah. So, like I said, it's like a hybrid athlete style training. So, it's a good combination of running, lifting, functional fitness. And so they had a open workouts, like CrossFit Open, like, so you do the workouts online. And for the Eastern regionals, I qualified first. So, this is the, at home gym setting. So you're like, I'm not in a bodybuilding prep. So I did really well with that. So I was like the number one seed coming in. I did not finish first. So, spoiler alert. Um, so there's 3 different events for this part of the competition. And the first one was a Murph style workout where we all had weighted vests, a mile run, 120 push-ups, 204, no, I'm sorry, 60 reps of a overhead shoulder press, 120 push-ups, and then 240 air squats, and then another mile run with the weighted vest. And my thought process with all of the different events, with the 3 of them, was try and get top 3 to 5, and I'll be in a good spot for the podium to do, however. Um, so I ended up placing 5th in that one. Had a really good start with the mile time. I think I was second coming in to the exercises. But this weight, this sandbag for the shoulder press was 100 pounds, and at the time I'm like low 170s, and I'm like, this thing is kicking my butt, dude. So that was that was tough, but I was like, the plan was still, going along top 3 to 5 for everything. And then the second one was right up my alley. So it was a max reps with 185 on bench press and then max reps with 315 on deadlift. So you have to do 1 minute of the max reps on bench, then you have 3 minutes rest, then 1 minute max reps on the deadlift. Again, there's some big boys competing in this, and I am at my like lightest. But on bench press, I got 29, and then the deadlifts I got 30, I believe. So I was like second or third in that one. So still right where I wanted to be. And then the third event was this. It's called Last Athlete Standing, and it was around like a run. So it was like 250 meters. Um, and there's 21 guys competing, and every lap they would cut off 3 guys. And this is another one right up my alley because I have a really good mile time. I've done sub 5 a few times, and this is not the conditions for that. It was on a field, it wasn't on the track, and everybody's pushing and shoving. So we're about halfway through the event, and I'm feeling strong. I'm ready to start making my push, trying to conserve a little bit of energy. And then around the corner, I get pushed from both sides, tripped up. So I ended up finishing like middle of the pack for that workout. And I believe I was 5th overall for the entire event, but top 9 qualified for the Battle Bunker Championships, which are in October. And they're at like the National Training Center in San Diego. So I'm really excited for that. Gonna add a few pounds, get a little bit more comfortable, but all again, another failure. That's all right. It was a fun experience, and I'm excited for the championships to dedicate more time to that. And it's a great style of competition that like balance between both.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds really fun. And it'll be interesting to see what you do with a couple more pounds on you. And
Yeah.
so, all right. So then that's behind you. Now you're halfway through the month. Now it's bodybuilding time. What does that look like? Take us through the day of and how it went.
It was fun. Like after trying to, carb up for the Battle Bunker regionals, immediately take the calories away and try and, get those last, that last little bit off. But the bodybuilding show was in Phoenix, Arizona. So I competed in the OCB, which is like a drug tested federation. And I've done this previously where I got my natural pro card drug tested. So this was my first competition as a bodybuilding pro. I'm not an IFBB pro, like it's not the same thing, but it's drug tested. It's cool. It's a lot of great physiques. So this is my first pro show, and there we ended up competing with like 12 guys. I did classic physique. I like to show off the legs a little bit, but it was a great time. For that, I ended up battling it out with the top 5 of us, and I took 5th. I think, maybe 3rd would have been there, but the top 2 guys were definitely the top 2 guys in my opinion. And I was having a great time with those guys, a lot of great physiques. We were all chatting it up. But just the the whirlwind 180 of doing the hybrid athlete style training competition into the bodybuilding show was mentally exhausting for sure, because you're just depleting yourself of everything and then trying to bring it back and then depleting yourself and then trying to bring it back. Um, so as far as I think endurance training and strength training can go hand in hand pretty well. It's definitely challenging, but when you add in that extra element of, okay, now do it without food or a low amount of food, it really adds a nice twist to it.
Or do it while driving a sketchy van across the country at the same time.
True. Yeah, like my lower back was killing me half the time that trip.
So, all right, bodybuilding competition behind you. Now you're driving from Arizona to Idaho. Is that right?
Yeah, Idaho. If you would have asked me to point on a map where Idaho was before this, I I would have led you in the wrong direction. I would have thought like next to Indiana or something like that. No, it is Pacific Northwest, right next to Washington State, and it was beautiful up there. I'll tell you that. But it was a road trip for sure.
And so, how many days of driving or how many hours of driving did it take to get to Idaho from Arizona?
I want to say that was like had to be 25 hours, 26 hours, I think.
Okay. So you
Yeah.
spend roughly
But I
20.
did go to like San Diego and LA along the way. So like some of the trip was dedicated to just seeing some stuff. I was obviously getting workouts along the way, but I definitely made some cool stops. Like I went to Disneyland.
So you're taking the stops, you're doing the things. I watched one of your I don't know if it was a reel or a story, something on social media where you said that you did your first ever open water swim. Was it the day before the Ironman?
It was. So it To be fair, I did grow up swimming a little bit, so swimming is something I feel comfortable with. I swam until I was like 11 or 12 years old. But yeah, open water is different. It was a lake, so luckily it wasn't the ocean. But it was also so for those who don't know, a full Ironman is a 2.4 mile swim, 112 miles on the bike, and a full marathon after. So my longest training ride on the bike was 50 miles. And I did that like 2 weeks before. And then my first open water swim was the day before in the lake that I swam the Ironman in. And because of all the other training, my longest run of like the month of June was like 6 miles, just because I was trying to balance everything, not like, overdo it or try and find some sort of comfortability with everything. But the Ironman itself, it was a euphoric experience. I can't emphasize that enough. The swim felt great. I was feeling good out of the water. It took me like an hour and 10 minutes. So pretty decent like tempo for the open water. And everybody's battling it out. Everybody tells the horror stories of getting kicked in the face or drowned while they're in an Ironman swim. And the second part, obviously the bike, I was feeling really good on. First half, 56 miles, crushed it. I was around like, 20 miles per hour. And this is a tough bike course. It ended up being like, almost 6,000 feet of elevation gain
Wow.
throughout it. Um, and then, so we have our not emergency, our bag drops at mile 65. So in that bag, I had some more food and some more a spare tire tube and spare CO2. And I had one on the bike as well. So I get past mile 65, still cruising. And I'm like, all right, well, I still have my tube and my CO2 in the bike. So I don't need to grab the other one. I don't really have room for it anyway. And then a mile like 68 or 69, front tire pops. I'm like, all right, it's all right. Everybody deals with some sort of difficulty throughout an Ironman. We'll make a quick fix of it. It's not a quick fix, but we'll do the best we can. So I put the spare tube on, fill it up. I'm like, all right, we're rocking and rolling. A few miles later, somebody comes up from behind me and they're like, yo, you're riding on the rim. Your back tire is flat. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I was like, do you have any CO2 to fill it up? And he's like, nah, man. And I stopped for a minute, was like, basically like, somebody give me some CO2, please. Nobody did. And I was like, well, I can't waste any more time. So I did the last 40 miles of the bike on a flat tire.
Oh my
And it
gosh.
gets better, dude. It gets better. So the hardest part of the climb is like this 2 miles straight up. And like you're lucky if you're going like 7, 8 miles per hour at this point. But on the downhill, it's great. You're going like 40 miles per hour. So, I get through it. I'm going down at this time. So I'm going fast with the flat tire and it starts to hail.
Oh
Hailstorm. And I'm like, all right, guys, this is how it ends. Hailstorm on a flat tire going 40 miles per hour down a mountain.
gosh.
But we made it through. We endured. We got through the bike, and I've never been so excited to run in my life. I was like, get me to this marathon. I want to do a marathon so bad right now. So all in all, I lost probably over an hour on the bike or so. But at this point, just enjoy the journey, finish strong. And I'm like, all right, take off on the run. 3/4 of a mile in, mile 0.75, full body cramps. I go to the ground. I'm like, we're in for a battle today. Uh, So luckily for Ironmans, they have like aid stations or fuel stations like every like 1.5 miles or so.
Mhm.
So I get there and I'm like, just start down stuff. First soda I've had in 10 years because they always have Coke there.
Uh-huh.
Need it, need everything. And then I fuel up and I'm starting to feel good. And I feel pretty solid from up to mile 8. And then mile 8 through 13, everything that I've consumed that day is just destroying my insides. And I'm like, oh, this is a battle. This is a battle. After the half point, I settled in and was able to ride the rest of the race through and just kind of enjoy everything. Most people for the running part of the Ironman, like it was crazy how many people I saw on the side of the road. Like you were like, "Are you all right?" Like checking their pulse, and I felt stronger and stronger as the race went on. Mile 26 was actually my fastest mile of the entire
Wow.
run.
What was it?
It was only like it was like barely sub 8, but at that point you're like cruising.
Yeah.
I like going into it, I was like, oh, I'll try to hold like 8:30s or something like that. And yeah, not so much, but it was awesome. So ended up finishing in like 12 hours and 50 something minutes. Not the gold time. Like I said, we lost probably over an hour on the bike, but that finish line was the most euphoric moment of my life. It really felt different running down that, hearing you are an Ironman and like ringing the bell and stuff like that. Having my parents there, they ended up surprising me for the
Wow.
Ironman after doing the whole month-long journey alone. That was the first time I've cried tears in a long time, man.
I don't know why I'm tearing up right now, but yeah, I watched a video you were speaking to the camera right after you had finished
Yeah.
and you were getting emotional and I just thought, man, I can't wait to hear more about what that felt like. And euphoria is a feeling that I don't think a lot of us get very often, but like what else were you feeling? What else were you thinking? Like what thoughts went through your mind at that point?
It was like, we're talking about how the journey is all like what it's all about. But that end point, like I didn't really I did all the things I said I would do. And that is the best feeling, man. Like I that is the only thing we can really hang our hats on. Like doing what you said you would do. Like be the person that you say you're gonna be and actually following through on those actions. You know, for a year I've been training however many hours a day, however many hours a week, putting a lot of things on hold and you know, trying to balance all these things. And then the culmination of that, of all the training, the 10,000 miles that I drove around the country, the 4 different competitions, and then just being like, I said I was going to do this a year ago and I did. And it feels nothing has ever felt better than that. You're thinking about all of those. Like I trained before my firehouse shift, like 3 in the morning, like all those 3 a.m. workouts, all of those like late night runs, those cold swims you don't want to do and stuff like that. And it's just like pure bliss, man. I've never felt more like at peace with everything I've done than at that moment.
Do you think it would have been possible to feel that peak of euphoria without all of the struggle and sacrifice that led up to that moment?
Absolutely not. That is what makes the person, that's what makes the moment is all of that pain, like whether it's emotional, physical, self-induced or not, whether you chose to endure it or whether you was thrust upon you, there's nothing quite like conquering all of that and coming out the other side cleaner. That's all we can ask for is to try and find that limit and reach it. What I ask for everybody else to do is it doesn't have to be sky high goals where you're doing something crazy like that. Put something out in the universe, say you're going to do it, and just work towards it. There will be tough times, there will be really sad, lonely times. Even if you have the best support system in the world, you nobody's running this race with you or doing this with you. You have to do it. You have to put in those hours. At the end of the day, you will appreciate it more than you ever thought you could. And you'll appreciate the journey even more than that.
That's so beautiful. And naturally, the question just fits so well to this conversation. But when you hear the word endurance, what does that mean to you after all of this?
It's yeah, for me, endurance has always been more about what you can withstand up here,
Mm.
because whatever your mind can imagine and can endure, your body will follow through. Your body will follow along begrudgingly most of the time, but it will help you get there. Um, and endurance doesn't have to be a race. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. It just has to be putting yourself in those tough situations, whether you're trying to chase um, some sort of job promotion or anything like that. It all works the same way as far as enduring all of the crap that comes with it, all of the tough late nights, early mornings, um, and just putting that whole philosophy in everything you do. You know, everything should be like, how much can I put in so that I can get all of this out? You know, the the rewards aren't always automatic, like we were talking about earlier, but they will always come with hard work. Hard work works.
I love it. Um,
Yeah.
Before I get to the final question that I ask everybody, I am wondering what is next outside of Battle Bunker in October? What is next after all of this? Is it something you feel like you want to top? Is it something that
Yeah.
you feel like you need to top? Like, what comes next?
So I need the sub 3. I do need it. So that is planned for the first weekend of September. And then the next weekend, I'm doing the half Ironman in Atlantic City. That's more for fun. Doing it with a couple friends, and it's close to home. You know, we're close to each other. Um, so that one's for fun. And then after that will be the Battle Bunker Championships. Try and focus those, um, whatever less than 2 months into that. Again, the big one is going to be early December. I'm going to tackle the 100 miler. It's, uh, I mean, I think that's just as far, if people had to guess what was next, they would probably say you're going to do an ultra. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do an ultra. I have to, just another thing. And I know that'll test me in different ways, because those training days, just the workouts alone, um, 3, 4 hours, 5 hours for a training run, that's some sort of commitment.
Mm. Yeah, and I think the cool part about all these things is that it's just they're more examples of how a physical pursuit can unlock new mental levels. And I think a lot of times when people feel stuck or if people feel stagnant and they're not sure how to push through that next mental barrier, doing something physical. And again, it doesn't have to be 4 fitness competitions in a month on a road trip. It doesn't have to be an ultra marathon. It can just be getting up and moving and doing something that's hard, right? Our physical limits reveal our mental limits and allow us that window to make that change and to grow. And everything that you're doing is providing you that opportunity. And so whatever you do, it's gonna be good and the hard work will work. I'm excited to follow along. It's gonna be cool, man.
I appreciate that, brother.
Yeah.
And like for anybody, like, yeah, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. It can be your first 5K, but speak it into existence. Say you're going to do it. Lock yourself into it. That's
Mm.
my biggest recommendation. You speak it into existence. You let everybody know you're going to do it. It's hard to back down, and then that feeling of following through and doing exactly what you said you would, nothing compares to it.
Couldn't agree more. Now, I think a lot of what we just talked about could apply to this last question. So I'm going to phrase this a bit differently. If somebody is out there and they're going through a hard time, right? They didn't choose to endure this thing, but whatever it is, it found them. And maybe it's not physical, it's just life. It feels heavy and it feels hard, and they're just not sure what to do next or how to move forward. And you get to speak to that person directly right now. What would you say to them in that hard season, that dark place?
Absolutely. Lean on the good things in life, whether it's a, a passion or people, like one singular thing, well, just lean on those things, dive as deep into them as you can, because what you love will give you that release and give you almost an escape, and it'll help you grow. Like, I love fitness, and it has transformed me as a person. I lean on it every day. It's like, people ask me, I tell people, if I had to wear a baggy sweatshirt for the rest of my life and had to delete all my social media, I would still train the same way, because mentally and emotionally I need it. And I'm perfectly okay with saying that.
Mm.
Like, whatever it is in your life that you can lean on, that you love, do it as hard as possible. Dive into it. Movies, whatever, reading, just traveling. I know that's easy travel, but if you're having financial hardships and stuff like that, but put your eggs into the baskets that you enjoy, and really just focus on those things. Don't waste any time with any people or things that aren't giving back to you.
I think that's such great advice, and it can be applicable to anybody going through anything. And I really appreciate that, Jack. I really appreciate this conversation. I appreciate
Yeah,
you.
man,
And
this is awesome.
yeah, I can't wait to get an in-person workout in together. You're gonna have to take it easy on me, but we'll make that happen at some point. And if people want to follow along on social media, they want to reach out to you, whatever it is, where can people find you?
Yeah, man. So on Instagram, Jack D_fitness, and then TikTok, Jack Driscoll Fitness. Um, so on Instagram, I post more of like the highlights, but I post every day of training on my TikTok if you're interested in daily in and outs of it. But yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to linking up at some point. We're way too close in location to not do it at some point.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I said, I'll link up with you on one of my hard days that pairs with one of your easy days, and then you'll still have to take it easy on that day for me.
Okay.
But yeah, man, thank you again for this, for everything that you're doing, and congratulations on not just the past month, but the person that you are and the light you are in this world. We need more people like you.
The feeling's mutual, my friend, dude. Your podcast, your overall message is incredible. And I can't recommend you as a person and your podcast and your socials enough to other people, because you really do have a positive impact.
Thank you so much, man. If you enjoyed this episode of the Project Indoor podcast, go ahead and subscribe, leave a review on your platform of choice, and share this episode with a friend. It helps us get more conversations like this out to more people like you. We appreciate you, and we'll talk to you next time. And one more thing. If you're looking for a community of people all striving to be better together, check out the Project Indoor Hard Things Club. The link is in the description below. We'd love to have you.